over on some of these. So I'm trying to see what really is your thoughts about getting upper edge on getting deals.
So just to
What do
make
you
sure,
think?
let's define first off what we think is a shifting market, just so there's no confusion. So my first question would be, do you believe the market is essentially the same as it was 2 months ago, or do you think it's going in a different direction?
Oh no, I still think that we're still in the seller's market right now, heavily, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but my concern is because like when it is still the seller's market like it is, but with the holidays, how we have low inventory because less people want to list, and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's even more competitive with the offers that we're putting in on the properties. So what exactly would you like think like, oh, okay, well, this would probably be something else that would be a great way to kind of see if you can kind of get the the leverage on getting them properties.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood the question first, because I wanted to make sure you weren't referring to something that I wanted to make sure I was answering the right question, basically. So, I know this is maybe not the answer you're expecting. Hang on one second. I'm going to leave one room and go to the other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here would be my answer on that is, here's Jan.
Hey, Ben.
So here's my thoughts on that is that let's take a kind of a philosophical approach for a second. Okay, who is in charge of making the decision on what offer is selected?
The seller's agent.
Okay, so knowing that, I agree with you. It might be the seller, but the more important person is the seller's agent.
Right.
Okay, so we should be directing all of our energy to the seller's agent, right? Because they're the ones that are going to communicate what's going on with how the market responds to that listing to their particular client. And they're going to be very, very much involved in making a recommendation. Hey, I really like offer number 16, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the person that you got to butter up is the listing agent. So how do we butter up the listing agent? We butter up the listing agent by asking the listing agent what the listing agent wants. Just if we're trying to, if we're trying to get into a deeper relationship with the seller, we ask the questions like, what's important to you? Why is that important to you? If there was something next to be important to you, what would that be? Why is that important to you? How do you feel when it happens, right? What does that do for your family? Oh, doesn't your family deserve that? I mean, it's the same stuff, right? So it's going to the listing agent and saying, I imagine, can you tell me what's going on? I'm one of like 5 offers or 1 offer or 117 offers. Can you help me understand what's going on? And the seller says, oh yeah, you're one of 44 offers. Hey, great. Tawantis, let me tell you something. I just want to win. I want this deal to be awesome for you and your client, and I want this deal to be awesome for me and my client. So what is it that you guys are looking for? When you guys look at the different blanks, right? What blanks are you looking at first? Is it closing time? Is it closing cost? Is it sales price? Is it other concessions? Is it types of financing? Whatever it is, right? And they answer you and you say, awesome, thank you so much for sharing that. Now, can you make a recommendation to me on what I should put here? Because I just want to win. Let's make this simple. Okay. Do I need to give you 200? Do I need to give you 225? What's the number? Right? And so you extract from the listing agent exactly what the listing agent is looking for. That's half of the discussion. Okay. That will only get you so far. Then you take that information to the buyer and say, all right, buyer, no closing cost. Got to get rid of all this other fluff, no home warranties and all this crap, and no closing cost. You're going to spend 20 grand over list price, and we're going to close in 3 weeks with their lender. Are you interested? And if the buyer, I'm just throwing some random stuff out there, but if the buyer then says, yeah, write it up, then you got yourself a deal, most likely. If the buyer says, well, I don't want to pay 225 for the home, or I don't want to get rid of this, shorten the due diligence period, or I don't want to, not ask for home warranty. Okay, fine. You're probably going to lose. So there's a few phases here. The first is extracting what it's going to take to win. The second phase is convincing the buyer, or let me rephrase that, sharing with the buyer what it's going to take to win. And then the next phase is determining with the buyer if that is reasonable. Okay. So the thing that is presupposed throughout this entire process is that you have coached your buyer properly before all this happens. Meaning to say, Mr. Buyer, let me tell you what the market's like and what you're looking for. Right now, if you've got a $1.3 million buyer in, Roswell, it's a different market than if you got a, $95,000 buyer on the south side of town, right? It's totally different, right? So number one, you got to understand the market. You've got to be able to share the statistics. Say, look, there is, half a month of inventory and 80% of homes are selling above list price. And there's a good likelihood we're going to be one of 50 offers. So I have worked day in and day out with my coach on how to make sure that I get the best home for my client. But I gotta let you know, it's gonna be tough and you're gonna feel like you're losing the whole time. Okay. And the truth of the matter is you basically have no negotiation power. So what's going to end up happening is I'm going to help you find the right property. I'm going to help you understand what it's going to take to buy it. And then we can evaluate together whether we think that makes sense. But please understand, you're going to feel like you're in a boxing match and you're getting your ass kicked the whole time. Okay. Now, if you don't like buying under those circumstances, then no one's forcing you to buy. But if you need to buy, this is what it is. There's no way around it.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally what it is right now.
Okay, so again, let's summarize. One, you got to coach your buyer on what to expect. Okay, so there's no surprises.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part of that, by the way, this is a universal idea, right? You want to coach your buyer on what to expect from the inspection report, right? You want to coach your buyer on what to expect when the seller answers your request of the things to fix, right? Okay, well, I want you to fix items 1 through 74, and I want a home warranty too. Are you nuts? Do you think this is 2008? Am I in the twilight zone here? That ain't gonna happen. Okay, but if you don't tell your buyer that stuff's not likely to happen, then they get a piece of wood rot and they think the whole house is falling down, right? And so you say to them, look, I need you to understand, we're going to have a very thorough home inspection. They're paid to identify problems, right? And when the problems come, you have to ask yourself, are these problems that are, health and safety related? Are these problems that are fixable, right? And we're going to ask for, if we're able, the most important items to you. And there's going to be some items on the report that you might have to fix or deal with on your own later. How comfortable do you feel with that? Let me give you an example. If the whole home has mold, I'm going to go overtime to make sure that thing gets replaced or repaired. However, if they don't want to pay for it, then I'll make sure that you get the best mold company in town to fix it. But it might be something you have to deal with. How would you feel about that? Okay, what if there's some wood rot, or what if there's a backward electrical outlet or something? Right? I'll make sure you've got the right vendor to fix it. I just need you to understand that it's unlikely the seller is going to fix all of this stuff for you. It's actually pretty unlikely they'll fix any of this stuff for you. Okay. And then when the inspection report reveals a couple things and maybe the HVAC needs to get serviced, or, maybe there's some issue with the water heater or something like that, and you get it actually fixed, they think you're a miracle worker. But if you get a 6-page inspection report and all you can get, and you don't prep your buyer, and all you get out of the seller is a little thing on the water heater fix, they think you're a crappy agent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's all in how you prep the person. Okay. But if we go back to your original question, how do we win? We win by going to the decision maker and getting whatever we need to figure out to win. Then we go to our party and say, are you interested in winning today? Because if you give these terms, there's a pretty good chance you'll win. If you give terms that are inferior to what I just described, you may as well just start looking again. I'm not forcing you to buy the home. I'm just helping you understand when you're going to win and when you're not going to win. So do we want to win on this one, or do we want somebody else to buy this home? And they'll respect that.
The other thing that's really, really important to prep them on, and I know this sounds crazy, is to not fall in love with the house until you're at the closing table.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Because what happens, and I've had this happen to me twice, they get so disappointed because it falls out that, you know, eventually it becomes your fault. And you did everything you could possibly do, but it's still your fault. When it's not really. There's nothing you could have done to save the deal for whatever reason. But they get so disappointed because they fell so in love with that house.
That's exactly right. I think that's great advice. So here's does that make sense, Tawantis? Was that did I say it in a way that made sense, or does that resonate?
Yeah, it did, but to me, the ultimate thing is what you were saying about you are now trying to win over the seller's agent in a sense. So, yeah, and that's kind of like what I was thinking, because I was like, that's the only way on a lot of these multiple offers right here, you're gonna have any kind of leverage. So that's what I was just thinking myself, but you kind of like verbalize in all the ways that is so true. So yeah, okay.
It's look, this is not it's a tough market, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just me personally, like I'm much more likely, God, if I lose like multiple offers like 4 or 5 times to somebody, I'm like pissed. Like that is going to frustrate the crap out of me. And so I just don't want to lose. And so I will go to the decision maker and straight up say, here's a blank contract. Just fill it out the way you want me to fill it out. So I win, and I'll take it to my buyer and make sure we're cool with this. Is that cool? And they laugh. I'm like, I'm dead serious. I don't want to, I'm tired of this. Let's go to the closing table. You want a slam dunk, right? Right. I just want to know what it's going to take to win. That's all it is. And I got to tell you, another agent wants to work with an assertive, helpful, competent agent, right? I've said to you guys many times, like I've got a number of agents around town that I just simply have to call them and say, what do I need to give you guys? Lee, what's it going to take? I want that condo indicator. Bill, what's up, man? It's been a long time. Just give me 245. We're good. Okay, see you closing. You see what I'm saying? Hello? Is this thing working?
Oh yeah.
All right. All right, let me give you a little, you guys want to hear some language stuff for a second?
Sure.
Okay, and we're getting kind of close to the end of the material from language of sales, and we could certainly go into more detail or cover more stuff, but if there's an additional topic that you want to cover during this time, just shout it out, okay? So I'll go over a concept called level shifting today. Have you guys ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, level shifting is used to shift a person's perspective or focus. Okay, when level shifting, you're either changing the context of the conversation or you're redirecting the conversation. So to be successful in level shifting, you need to suspend your attachment to the perspective of the listener. You need to focus on redirecting the conversation to something that you can solve or handle, and you need to become the solution. So these are common phrases with respect to level shifting, then I'll give you some examples. What I'm hearing you say is, what I think you're saying is, what I'm sensing is, what I think you're feeling is, it sounds like, isn't the real question. What it sounds like you're saying is, I believe you're asking, but what you're really thinking is, so what you really mean is, what seems to be important to you is, so what you mean is, what I gather is, what I perceive is, See what I'm doing? So here's an example, a non-real estate example. I don't want to do my homework. What do you say?
So what I hear you saying is that you are not willing to do the homework to get a better result.
So that's almost perfect. What a better response to that would not be, so what I hear you say is you don't want to do the homework. It's what I hear you say is the effect of not doing the homework. So for example, what I'm hearing you say is you don't want to go out on Friday night with your friends, right? You're shifting the focus completely off of the homework so that they can
Oh, okay.
so that they can understand the consequences of their thought. Does that make sense?
Wait, hold on 1 second. Wait, so someone is telling you, okay, I don't want to do my homework, right? And so you inadvertently are trying to like get them to see, okay, if you don't do your homework, this is gonna be the result.
Inadvertently implies you're doing it by accident. We're not doing it by accident. We're being intentional.
Yeah, but you coming back with a question that makes it seem like, oh, so what you're saying is almost like, so all right, so what
It's
you're
not,
saying, you don't want to succeed right now in these goals that you just gave me because you don't want to do your homework.
Right. It's
Right?
like, well, I don't want to make cold calls. Okay, so
Yeah,
what I hear
okay.
you saying is that what you're telling me
all
is
right,
you don't
watch it
want
now,
to,
Bill.
okay, let me rephrase that. But what I don't want to study my scripts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to come in the morning and work. So what I hear you saying is paying for your kids' college education is not very important. Is that correct?
Yeah, but is that a nice way to say that to somebody? Because to me,
this is not a matter of nice or
yeah,
not nice.
nice.
This is a
Oh,
matter of getting clarity, right?
So what I hear you saying is that having a brand new water heater is more important than having a house,
Or having this house.
having this house.
Exactly.
Would
So
that be a way to fit?
that would be great.
Or
Yeah. So
what
here's another example. Jan, you nailed that. Perfect. So
okay.
I won't sell if I don't get $499 for my house. So what I hear you saying is that it's more important for you to get that price than to be in California with your grandchildren, correct? So if you
that's the reason for asking the probing questions, so later you can use it against them.
yeah, class dismissed. That's what we do. We understand their motivation so that we can shed light on whether what their current activities are doing is in alignment with that.
I'm never telling you any of my secrets.
Well, here's the thing is, I mean, if you don't want to get coached, then don't get coached. But just kidding. That was not a threat. Okay.
Okay, so
they're gonna be like, you
But
such
Jan, what I hear you saying is you're comfortable with not reaching your potential.
okay,
But then they're gonna say, I didn't tell you that.
I'm recording this.
Oh, come on, don't record this crap.
But do you see what I'm saying? So if somebody says, oh, you know, I took the week off. I didn't want to do any work this week. Okay, so and not a vacation, like a not planned vacation, but you just chose not to do anything, right? So what I think I hear you say is that paying off the debt that we've been discussing for the last 6 months is not as important. Am I understanding as it once was? Am I understanding that correctly? Has something changed? Right. So you're
and then they come back, no, that's really important. So I'll just respond to that.
So Jan, thank you for sharing that. What is it that we need to adjust so that we can get back on track?
Okay.
And that you can achieve that goal quickly, right? In the time frame that you said was important to you. That's a great one. What I hear you saying is it's more important for you to get that price than to be in California with your grandchildren. Is that correct? Right. So here's a recruiting one, for example. Okay. let's say somebody says, well, I love my broker, and that's why I'm comfortable paying $50,000 more in broker fees each year than I know I need to if I was at a different brokerage. So what I hear you saying is your relationship with your broker is worth $50,000 a year. Is that correct? Well, that's actually that's not a great one. Let me restate that. What I hear you saying is you'd rather spend the $50,000 on your broker than paying off the debt that you just told me was important to you. Is that correct? It's almost
Yes, yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
you're basically you understand what makes them tick, right? What's important to them, what their motivation is, and then you shift it off of that.
So
So like
what you're saying, Bill, is you take them out of the room, you spank them, you bring them back to the table and give them dessert.
um I mean those are your words, but that's not bad. Not bad. It's the kind of thing where it's like um it's helping people understand the consequences of their behavior, right? So
Yeah.
like if my kids are messing around at dinner and they're eating food with their fingers, or they're being, if they say, ooh, this is gross or something like that, and my wife just spent 30 minutes making their dinner, like that pisses me off, that pisses her off, and that's not cool, right?
Okay, so let me ask you this, Bill. I'm comfortable joking around with you. I understand the concept. I even employ so what I hear you saying, I use it all the time, just so they know that I'm listening and that I've heard them. But I'm really uncomfortable with the rest of it. I don't know. It just makes me uncomfortable. And
What do you
so
mean the
I
rest
have
of it?
been meaning saying, well, so Bill, what I hear you saying is that you don't want to accept this price. So does that mean that you really don't want to sell the house and get moved to California?
You're saying you would have a problem saying that?
I get really uncomfortable and it makes me nervous. It upsets me, um, makes my blood pressure go up.
Well, and what I think I hear you saying is that it's more important for you to be a nice agent than a successful agent.
Pretty much.
But
Yeah.
I don't know, because I kind of see, like, I'm looking at it from the same way. It sounds to me like you're being like almost like antagonistic in a way to somebody who you're there to still assist them the best you can and direct them, but bringing up the fact of like
Okay,
something like that, it
hold
just
on.
seems like
So
it's coming out
is
the
what
wrong
I'm
way.
doing.
Thanks, Tawantis, because that's how I feel. I feel like now I'm
Yeah.
being
Wow.
antagonistic. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's very important that you say the words the right way. But you did say something very interesting, which you said, um, I want to do the best job for them, right? What about
Right.
the thought that actually might be the best job for them, is to have a tough conversation with your client, right? Do we not always have tough conversations with our client? Hey, this looks like a hoarder's house. Clean this shit up. We're not going to put it on the market. Hey, 500 is the wrong price. It's got to be
Here's a
475.
here's a perfect example, Bill. I've been working with these buyers going on 2 years now. I helped them find their rental property. Well, it's actually going on 3 years. And they wanted to buy a year ago, and her stockbroker told her the market was going to tank. Well, a year ago, now we're 12% higher. And I know they have to move because the rental company has put the house on the market. And I called her yesterday. She's been begging me to find her a house in Milton. I found her exactly what she's looking for in Milton. And she's like, I don't want to be pressured. Because I said, take a look at him. She's like, well, if we like him, we'll go see him this weekend. I'm like, Lori,
So
you can't do that.
So you could say, so what I think I'm hearing you say is that you might be a little fuzzy on all of your options. Would you like to review them again now?
Well, she's one of those people. She's really, really strong-willed, and
Right. So she's emotional, and with emotional people,
very emotional.
they make decisions with facts. Right. You need to confront emotions with facts. So you're not going to say, hey, what I hear you saying is you're a nut. That's not the right thing to say. What I hear you saying is it would probably be helpful to review your options one more time. Why don't we do that together now? Option A is you live on the streets. Option B is you buy now. Option 3 is I don't know what it is, right? So you just lay out the options. Should we talk about the pros and cons of each one? Because you're in a situation that clearly you don't have any control over. So what are we going to do about that? Let's review our options. All right, I'm